What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Nerd District. My name is Jeremy, and today we are back with more Stranger Things, but more specifically, how this whole story is going to end. So I actually had released a couple of videos reacting to all the trailers and such like that, where I had also released my theories of what I thought would happen for each volume. And yes, I wasn't right about everything, but I was right on, I think, the most important parts. Will tapping into the hive mind, as well as Max and Holly escaping in the same episode I thought they would escape, as well as basically what every episode was going to be about, essentially. So I have a theory for you guys today of how this whole entire story is going to wrap up and what the final episode is going to be about. Let's go. So, as we saw in the very last episode of Volume 2, how the story basically ended off until, you know, the brand new episode that is coming, Episode 8, that is going to be The Right Side Up, which is play on the words of, obviously, Upside Down, which I personally love. I thought was very funny in the most corniest way. So, the final episode, we were left off with Will finally coming out to his friends, and I mean finally, as we were teased in this in Season 3, when Mike told Will, "It's not my fault you don't like girls."
It's not my fault you don't like girls.
It's not my fault you don't like girls.
So clearly, Mike knew. I mean, honestly, we all knew. You know what I'm saying? And clearly, when he was coming out to all of his friends and family, Jonathan obviously knew, as he had that proud brother look on his face. And just to take a quick pause with this whole entire theory and the sum up of everything that happened, the whole point of this video, really, I just wanted to give a round of applause. Come on, let's do it. For all the actors and actresses that played a part in this making of the show, they nailed their role. Like, I don't think there's a single actor or actress that played their role bad. So, you know, that's kudos to them. But getting back to the topic at hand, Will came out to all of his friends, and this is a very important thing, which a lot of people skipped over because it was just poorly done and cringy as hell. But there was a lot that mattered, and a lot that we can actually take from that scene, which I'll be getting back to, but I'll leave y'all with a little taste, you know what I'm saying? Because Will might very well be the traitor, and that's one of the biggest things in this whole entire season. As the Duffer Brothers said, there is a traitor amongst the whole entire group. A lot of people think it's Callie, as we recently found Callie, and there's a bunch of different reasons why it's valid that Callie might very well be the traitor. But I have a third person in mind who I think very much well can be the traitor, and that could be Max. So bear with me with this whole entire theory as well as this whole entire video. I think you guys will enjoy it. So starting off right off the gate, I kind of want to address the fact that who I think is going to die and why it matters, right? Recently in this Volume 2, we had Nancy and Jonathan have to share this little moment with each other where they think they're basically going to die, and I think we all thought they were going to die too. Like, they were in the most cooked situation where no one could save them. I honestly don't even know how Steve broke into the room to save them once they were stuck. That still mind boggles me. Where Jonathan was planning on proposing, but he ended up not proposing. He did like a weird unpropose thing where it was like, you know, I actually don't want to be with you. We're just not going to work out. And it was like supposed to be emotional and romantic. It was weird. It was weird. But nonetheless, I originally had an idea in my last video, Stranger Things, where I thought Jonathan could very well die, right? Because, you know, of course, he wants to propose to Nancy. They're supposed to end up together. We're all shipping them. We've been shipping them for a very long time now. So his death will have mattered a lot, not only to Nancy, but to the whole group, as he is the brother of Will and the son of Joyce, even though Joyce pushes our boy to the sidelines, like, constantly.
I can monitor.
No, you're staying here.
No, Mom, I helped Dustin set up the antenna. I know how to work it.
Out of the question. It's just a wheel.
It's not just a wheel.
Jonathan, work it, right?
However, though, with this Volume 2 coming out, very well could just not be the case, because at this point, his death, I don't know, it just wouldn't really hit the same, and I think the Duffer Brothers know this. So, the next person on the list would have been Steve. I thought if Jonathan didn't die, Steve would. And this still very well could be the case, as we had the scene with Dustin as well as Steve. I think everyone knows this, because it was probably the best scene in this whole season so far. So they shared this little moment where they're basically reminiscing, or I guess not reminiscing, more like arguing and insulting each other in the most craziest way, where Steve ends up bringing up Eddie, which is, of course, Dustin's friend in Season 4, who ends up dying to kind of save him. Kind of not though, right? They end up basically arguing where Steve basically says, hey, Eddie made a dumb move and stuff like that, and then, you know, Dustin attacks the fact that he still is in love with Nancy to some extent, right? Now, why this would still be a good character to die, because Steve has not only had an amazing character arc this whole entire show, but of course we had little hints from the Duffer Brothers on the Jimmy Kimmel Show.
Oh, was 11 in water? Or 11's in
Which the Jimmy Kimmel Show has just been dropping Easter eggs like crazy. He's been having almost every single, actually, matter of fact, I think he did have every single person on the show and asking them questions, trying to weed things out about the new season of Stranger Things. And, you know, shout out to Jimmy Kimmel, because you're the GOAT for that.
He's the GOAT! The GOAT!
However, though, he's very well could be a good candidate, which actually leads me to my next candidate, which is Dustin. Yeah, Dustin could very well die this season. I know what you guys are saying. Oh, we don't want Dustin to die. I don't want Dustin to die either, but he's probably cooked. Let's be honest. When Dustin and Steve basically shared this whole entire moment, I think it was like Steve was trying to go up these flight of stairs as well, and Dustin was like telling him, hey, don't do it, you're gonna die, you're gonna get hurt. He was like trying to lay a ladder down on a big gap between stairs because the stairs had melted. That was just stupid, right? That was just, it wasn't a bad idea because like how else are you gonna get up there? No, I mean, I would just went up the railings that were like jumped. But regardless, like it was a bad idea, but it was the only idea they could use. However, Dustin ends up saving him in that scenario, and then right after, the ladder falls, breaks, and shows basically, yeah, Steve will have died. That's not really what I'm aiming at. I'm more so aiming at the conversation they had, where Dustin basically said he couldn't handle another one of his friends dying that he's so close to. And this could be hinting at the fact that, yeah, you know, well, guess what? Steve's not going to die. Dustin is. Because the thing is, that would be a huge, I think that would be the max development for Steve if Dustin ends up dying. And coincidentally enough, I believe it was Finn Wolfhard who plays as Mike. They were in like, I think it was like a Hot Ones interview, but it was just them. But they were eating wings. I really don't know what it was about. But it was, you know, Will, Mike, Lucas, and Dustin, the original gang. They were sitting there having their little interview where they were basically asking each other questions. And I think if you didn't want to answer the question, you had to eat a wing. I think that was basically the concept of the whole entire interview. Dustin goes to tell Mike, name someone that dies this season, right? And Mike ends up not answering until just a few moments later where he says, oh yeah, by the way, Dustin dies. Dustin does this little laugh that a lot of people would blow off, but it did seem like he was very nervous at the fact that, yeah, he might have just dropped some crazy hints. Very interesting because Dustin actually had pitched him dying, and I think he actually told Jimmy Kimmel on the Jimmy Kimmel Show.
You have said that you wouldn't mind if your character, Dustin Henderson, died.
I would not mind.
What's your ideal death, though? How do you want to go out?
I've got this. I pitched it.
And so this is all very relevant to the point to the fact that Dustin very well could die because Dustin even said himself, I wouldn't really care if I died this season. I actually prefer it. I think the next two people that could really die in this, or I guess the next three, are Mike, 11, or Will. Because we have this love triangle going on. It has to end. It has to end one way or another. As we got left off in the volume 2 of season 5, where Kylie was basically trying to convince 11. I think she low-key successfully did so. I'm basically telling her, hey, you know, you're going to have to commit suicide. Basically, the whole entire objective is to destroy the Upside Down and destroy the Abyss, which is basically Dimension X as we know it. And with doing that, they would all get destroyed, and the real world would still stay as it is, and everyone would be safe permanently from what could arise again. And another big reason is because, you know, the military is tracking down everyone who has powers to basically infuse their blood with people to make super soldiers. So, and then this actually leads to my next person to die, which is actually Mike, not Will. Funny enough. So the reason I think Mike could die is just because of the fact that this would be a huge character arc for 11. This would be insane. And for Will, as well as the whole entire cast. If Mike dies, everyone has a character arc in the whole entire show. Hopper has a character arc through 11. He's going to feel the pain of Mike, right? He's going to feel the pain for 11, for Joyce as the mother of Will, which is basically Mike's best friend, of, you know, Mike dying, the love interest as well as the best friend dying, which is also kind of Will's love interest as well, but you know that's a whole nother topic. So what I'm more so leaning towards is actually Will dying, believe it or not. So Will, I think he actually might die just because of the fact, if we look at that table when the Duffer Brothers were on Jimmy Kimmel's show, they stacked Mr. What's-It, Will, and Vecna all together. Now you could be like, well, you know, Will siphons his powers from Vecna. And that very well could be true. But it also could be the fact when Vecna said, you're going to spy for me one last time, he didn't just mean about Max. And there's a lot of hints towards this, right? Will actually slipped up with what he had said when he said he loves, I think it was like riding his bike.
We like biking to Melvalds for malted milkshakes.
And why does this matter? You guys will be sitting here like, you're wasting my time. What are you trying to get at? The thing is, that isn't a diner anymore. That place doesn't even serve milkshakes. So how the hell do you know about that? Only served milkshakes around Henry's time period. And how do we know this? Because of the play. In the play, Henry went there to go get milkshakes with his woman, with his love interest. So the thing is, how would Will even know about that? Hinting towards the fact that he is still a spy for Vecna. And this would actually play into perfect hands where someone within the group is a spy, either Callie or Will, because they're the only two ones that Vecna would really possess that would matter to any high extent. And the reason I'm leaning towards more Will is because Callie's, one, a little bit too obvious, and two, just because 11 took him out of that state, it doesn't mean he's not still under Vecna's control. And this would also be a perfect way that when they go to fight Vecna in this next episode, it's like, y'all thought y'all had the ups on me. Psych! I know your guys' whole entire plan. However, this then leads into the theory that Callie's the traitor. Yeah, I know, it's getting crazy. So with Callie being the traitor, this is obviously a very obvious way to go, and I don't think the Duffer Brothers would do this, but if they did, we obviously have to address it, right? So with Callie being the traitor, obviously she's very off-putting, and no one likes her so far in this season. Hopper, it clearly is just fed up with her antics at this point. But the most important thing, at least for me, and I think for everyone else, is the fact that she calls Henry brother. Whereas everyone else calls him Henry, calls him Vecna, calls him even by his number, she calls him brother, which is more of a family-oriented, more of like a close, I would say even a passionate for a family member in that sense to call him brother where no one else does in the show. But this could very well just be through the immense amount of torture she went through, and now she's just, just fucked in the mind, just fucked. However, and this leads to one of my other theories that is personally just my theory. I haven't heard anyone say this online, and that's that Max is controlled by Vecna. All right? Just hear me out. I think that when Max first found herself in this dream world, she probably did get chased by Vecna. Vecna was coming after her, right? This shows that Vecna had some sort of interest in getting her. And the reason is because to take over her mind and make her the spy, of course, right? That's my whole entire theory with this. So I think she ended up finding the cave, and Vecna is truly scared of that. That's some part of his memory that really does mess up the Henry side of him, which is why he never wants to enter that cave. So when Max goes to leave the cave to then finally escape, it just doesn't work out for him. And what ends up happening is Vecna does get his grasp on her. But it's not really Vecna that we're worried about. It's more so the Mind Flayer. And ends up controlling the entity of her that was inside of Vecna or Henry's memories. This then leads to the perfect spy. Why is Max the ultimate spy? So the reason she would be the perfect candidate and why that would make sense for Vecna to do is because Mr. What's-It leaves Holly a little gift in that mailbox, leading her to then think when later on she receives a map that it's also from him. So she's very willing to leave and go into those woods, right? To go save Mr. What's-It. And why is this important? Because this is the perfect misdirection. I think he let her do so because that then led Holly to Max and then said, oh shit, you know my brother, I can trust you. And this is of course when Max ends up telling her the truth and everything like that, and she thinks she has a friend in this weird world that she's in. And I know a lot of you guys are thinking, well, if the Mind Flayer took over Max's body, he wouldn't even want to be in that cave to begin with, and that's wrong. That would be the Henry side. This would be the limitation that the Mind Flayer was going through, where he couldn't enter this cave, but through taking over Max's mind, he could. Henry's one memory, they find it. They find the escape and everything like that. Max wanted to leave there so quick. Some people would say, well, she's been trapped in his mind for so long, etc., etc. But the thing is, Vecna wouldn't be able to reach you because he doesn't want to go through that cave. In that moment, if Holly were to sit there and really see what was inside that briefcase, she would have figured out that the Mind Flayer is actually controlling Henry and Vecna's not the main man in charge. This is then further pushed in an earlier season when Dustin said, yeah, Vecna is the Mind Flayer's 5-star general, pointing at the fact that Vecna's not really the one in charge. So if the Mind Flayer were to take over Max's mind, and while within this whole entire dream state, find Holly, they were to escape and then go back into Max's body, this would be the perfect spy to have. Because why? It made her look like a victim.
A victim.
It wasn't some random person that they found in a government base. It wasn't a person person that is known to be a spy in Will isn't someone like 11, who, well, I really don't even know how he would have gotten to her, but it would be someone that we least expected. It would have been someone that was inside of Henry's mind. It would have been a person that seemed like a victim, someone that has been unconscious for so long, a familiar face that they know. And this also would be a direct parallel with what happened to her brother. Her brother was easily taken over by the mind flayer. This would be the twist that everyone in the cast said that no one has guessed so far. So at this point, we are at the conclusion of what I think is going to happen in this last episode. And now we're just left with the resolve. Now, what do I necessarily think the resolve will be? I think it's the very thing that Mike keeps on talking about, and he actually told 11 on top of what I believe was the radio station, where he told her, you know, at the end of my campaign, everyone leaves their hometown. Everyone leaves where they were this whole entire time because there's too much memories there's too much history, and people just know too much. So that's what I think is going to end up happening, where Will was so scared of everyone separating. But I think that's actually the truth, that everyone at some point, to some extent, will leave. I actually think Lucas and Max might be the only ones who stay, as Lucas's parents don't really have a reason to leave, nor basically probably don't know anything that's going on right now. However, I think if 11 does survive, she probably won't be with the Byers and Hopper. She's definitely going to probably be leaving with Mike. Not even probably, she's definitely leaving with Mike. In which concludes what would be the real life D&D saga, right? For their whole entire story. Obviously, me leaning towards Max being a traitor and leaning towards Steve and or Dustin to die. You guys let me know if you guys agree or disagree with this whole entire theory about what is going to happen in the last episode of Stranger Things. At this point of recording, there's about 2 days left until this episode comes out, so I'll probably be posting this the day right before, so tomorrow. But however, yes, let me know if you guys agree or disagree with this theory. I'd love to know your guys' theory in the comment section, what you guys most likely think will happen. And until next time, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, as well as turn on your post notifications. The more you do that, the more our family grows, which is the whole entire goal here. So until next time, I'll see y'all.